Did My mother did loving things for me as well, but that is no excuse for destroying your child's body on purpose and then lying about it for 15 years on medical records, trying to convince the doctors that your son is some psychopath that has 101 mental illnesses and needs to be on 15 drugs. Now, luckily, the doctors wouldn't allow my mother to put me on 15 pills. No, they went seven, something like that, seven, eight. They went with Thorazine, Seroquel. Now, Thorazine sometimes with Haldol because they're generic, but Thorazine, Seroquel, Lamictal, Remeron, Risperidone, Trazodone. Oh, there was actually Zoloft. That memory came back to me yesterday, believe it or not. Right when I saw my roommate's medication because they gave him the wrong one, I was like, "Oh shit! That's definitely one of them. That's definitely one of the ones I heard my mother and father and the doctor talk about. That's definitely one." But I think the Zoloft was only in the treatment center hospitals. I don't believe that was given to me on a regular basis when I got out of the hospital. But either way, every antipsychotic, bipolar, every single antidepressant, bipolar, antipsychotic, and not only that, my mother was pushing for me to be on Zyprexa as well, and more meds that were for schizophrenia. And some doctors listened to her, but then they took it off because I was having bad reactions. Even though my mother said it was fine, some of these doctors were extremely worried about my health. Oh boy, I wish these doctors could have come home with me. If they saw what my mother was doing to me at home, like the full bottles of Epicac, the OD, the crazy manipulations, the drinking, the drugging, taking my Vicodin out of the bottle and taking it, uh, Xanax bottles going half empty. I mean, literally, I went in there to steal my Ritalin. I'm not kidding. I'll admit I'm somebody who believes in forgiveness and admitting to your digressions and asking God to do better. You always want to make yourself a better person. So I would never touch my own old meds. Whenever I have old meds, they get destroyed. I bring them to one of those boxes and drop them. But as a child, I didn't know this was what you're supposed to do. So I went in to get my Ritalin, and there was another family member who eventually wanted them. But while I was in there, I used to see weird things, like my Xanax being full, but then a month later, it being half empty. Meanwhile, my mother is acting crazier and crazier and drinking more and more. Is that all a coincidence that the liquor bottles are going slowly down and the Xanax bottles are going slowly down? Is it a coincidence that 2 years later she's popping my Vicodin that the emergency room gave me? Is this all? And then is it a coincidence that my mother liver failed? Is it a coincidence while her liver was at 20% and she was at the emergency room, she asked to come home and see her family, but then she walked right through her family to get to the liquor bottles, grabbed the liquor bottle, sat on the couch and started drinking? She hasn't even been home for 5 minutes and the first thing she does is drink? Is this all just some coincidence? No. Absolutely not. I could go back to age 5. My mother had a serious problem and she projected it onto me. And now I have to die for my mother's and father's sins. And if people don't like that, they can step in and help anytime they want. This has been allowed for years. If somebody wants to call me on the phone, have a conversation about this and help, they can. But the only help I'm getting is from God and the churches and from total strangers. The people who see me bleeding, the people that literally don't get to see my mother's bullshit. Anybody who listens to me understands this perfectly. Anybody who reads my mother's bullshit on file gets confused. So anybody who literally can see my medical file is totally just like weaponized and has no clue up and down. They don't know if the sky or the ground. They have no clue what is going on because they read my medical file, what makes no sense with what I'm saying. But if you just listen to the patient and only the patient instead of a dead woman's fantasy, it makes perfect sense. My manager, friends, family, people who have been with me for 7, 10 years, whatever, they understand this perfectly. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this out. But if you listen to my mother's bullshit on paper, well, then I just get hurt. Then the doctors literally malpractice me like crazy. Well, there is no way out of this. The only way out is in somebody else's hands. I have done everything possible that I should be doing. Actually, there's a lot of it I've been doing too much of, like working, injuring myself, walking in the cold, taking care of other people. Those great things are extra. But if I don't work, I can't live indoors. If I'm outside, I have seizures, I get more injured, and I probably wouldn't be able to walk. If I wasn't indoors for the last 6 and 7 years, I would either already be dead or I would be in a wheelchair not able to move, guaranteed. If I was not indoors for the last 6 to 7 years, I would have been guaranteed dead or in a wheelchair. And my family and my mother would be responsible for that one. Now, if my liver fails, I'm responsible for that one. If I do drugs and OD, I'm responsible for that one. If I have to go to an addiction clinic because I relapsed, I'm responsible for that one. Now, here's one that's shared. If I have an infection in my mouth and that's causing me to seize and fall on the side of the road, the infection in my mouth is my fault. The falls on the side of the road where cars run over my hair is my mother's fault. So that's a shared blame. I'm falling on the side of the road. The cars are running over my hair because of what my mother made choices of. My toothache and my infection in my mouth, that's from my choices. So that one's a mixed bag. You can see how this must suck horribly, falling on the side of the road and having cars run over you. Now, luckily, it wasn't my head, it was just my hair. But this could be the last, next time could be the last one. So I want to make sure whatever family members I have understand the truth. Now, I consider family your loved ones, the people who care about you and you have given back to and they give back to you. Now, I've given and given and given and given and given to the Newell family, my family. That's my last name, whatever. But I've been giving and giving and giving. I've gave my organs, my health. I literally got them out of trouble. I literally saved them hundreds of thousands of dollars as well. I've always made choices to save them money, even when like for instance, my father got in trouble with Social Security. He lied and manipulated Social Security. He got caught and they wanted me to sign a piece of paper, and the DMH worker said I would get all that money back, a year's worth of Social Security. Well, I love my father and mother. I'm part of a family, so why don't I act like it? I refused to sign the paper getting my father off the hook with one agreement. He had to act like a father. He had to care about his son's welfare in the future. That's it. He had to do everything in his power to make sure his son had an income when he turned 20. He had to help me with the court paperwork and get me. So basically, my father had to hire a lawyer for Social Security. That's it. He had to make a phone call and pay for a lawyer for Social Security, or not pay for the lawyer and help me at home. Either way, that's the deal. You made bad choices. I'm going to get you out of trouble, but I need you to act like a father. He agreed and shook my hand. We made a deal. I refused to sign it. He got off the hook. Now, when it came time for him to act like a father and keep his son's welfare and health and his whole life in view, and try to be a good father and try to make sure that his son has what he needs to survive and not die in the woods, he bailed out completely. My father bailed out. Now, I really shouldn't expect any different from him. I don't know why I keep on thinking he's going to wake up and act like a father. I don't know why I keep thinking that, but maybe one day he will have my health and well-being in mind. But as far as my childhood, no. I can go over more of those, but I actually love my father a lot. So these hurt me to talk about. They really do. But it's really important because a family is somebody who loves one another and has their well-being in mind. Like, I'm very worried about my father's health. He's elderly, has had lots of cancer. I love him, and that's why I'm worried about his health. Now, my mother, I was worried about her health 50% because I loved her, but the other part is because if she dies, she takes my health with her. But my father is just out of love, nothing else. I just love him very much. I mean, yeah, if he dies, I'm screwed and I can never get better, but I gotta stop this. Fucking alarms.